Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get this meeting started. I am hereby calling to order this meeting of the West Hollywood Planning Commission. This is a regularly scheduled meeting. It is Thursday, December 6, 2018. Just a quick note, the closed captioning on the television tonight is not working. I should also note that the videos of these meetings and proceedings are available on YouTube in addition to via the city's website, so just FYI. Who would like to give the Pledge of Allegiance? Todd Elliott, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Naturally, I had to call on the person sitting furthest away from the podium. Thank you. David, will you please lead us in roll call?
Good evening. Commissioner Hoopengarner?
Present.
Commissioner Erickson?
Present.
Commissioner Buckner?
Present.
Commissioner Bass?
Here.
Commissioner Eltsall?
Here.
Vice Chair Carvalero?
Here.
Chair Jones?
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Thank you. So item 4 is approval of the agenda. Just a couple of changes that I want to call out in case anyone is here to comment. There are 2 items that are being continued, one which is listed as such on the agenda and one that is not. I'll start with the one that is not. That is item 10D, 8439 Sunset Boulevard. That is being continued to a date uncertain. I should also note that as per the agenda, item 10E, the ZTA for dwelling unit and hotel clarifying definitions is being continued as per staff to Thursday, January 17th of the new year, which is right around the corner. So again, those are items 10D and 10E, and they will be continued. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion by Commissioner Hoopengarner, seconded by Chair Jones. And the motion passes unanimously as amended.
Thank you. Item 5 is approval of the minutes. This is for the meeting for November 15, 2018.
Staff is requesting that this
All right,
be continued to
continuation, yeah.
January 17, 2019.
I just learned how to read. Thank you.
Sure.
Great, thank you. So we will continue that to our next meeting. So with that, we can move into public comment. David, do we have any public speakers at
We
this
have
time?
no public comment.
All righty. Moving right along here. Item 7, Director's Report.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. John Kehoe, Interim Director of Planning and Development Services. Just a couple of updates on items that went to Council or are about to go to Council. At the meeting on last Monday, the City Council approved a zone text amendment to streamline the review of commercial projects under 30,000 square feet. So that was something that came to the Commission in the past. At the very end of that discussion, some of the Council members also talked about looking at other streamlining, such as possibly conditional use permits. So we'll probably be looking at that at some point in the future. On the next City Council agenda, there are 2 items that went before you that the Council will take up, and that's the discussion item on commercial building height calculation research, and then also a zone text amendment that's going to consolidate 3 of them that you took a look at, and that's the water regulations, the bicycle parking requirements, and the changes to names in the zoning ordinance. So that's my update for tonight.
Quick question. What's the status on the survey of commissioners' domiciles to generate the 500-foot radius?
So I can get back to you on that one. I know that the engineering department put out a request for proposal. I don't know if that time period has closed yet or not.
Great. Item 8 is items from commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Kehoe. Go ahead, Commissioner Erickson.
I just wanted to take a moment to thank staff for the invitation to the Park Inlet event this past, was it Wednesday already? Tuesday? And say it was really successful, and I'm really looking forward to reading many of the books I never get to read that are currently next to my bedside table at that little spot outside Book Soup. And then I also want to congratulate Chair Jones on an amazing showing at the annual Congress of Boards and Commissions. Many of you who may not have realized, we all took part last week in our annual Congress retreat, and it was a Family Feud style, and teams got chosen, and we were able to have a lot of fun. And I know some of you in the audience were actually here for that, and it was a great time. So I want to thank staff, specifically Yvonne and Melissa, for organizing that. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Covet? No? Well, I will just respond to that and say that Planning Commission was well represented on trivia. We did take the first place in the trivia event. So, and Commissioner Erickson is to be congratulated for his many right answers as well. So it was really great and fun. We don't often get to kind of be maybe as lighthearted as we would like here sometimes. So it was a nice way to kick back, and I think we all thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. Well, I know I did. If there's no other comments from commissioners, I will move on to item 9, consent calendar. There is none. And moving into item 10A, our public hearings. The first is 528 North Flores Street, and I will turn this over to Derek.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Derek Purification, Associate Planner, City of West Hollywood. The item before you today is located at 528 Flores Street. It's for subdivision 18-0016. The request is for a subdivision of a recently approved 4-unit multifamily building, which is 3 stories over at grade parking. The building would be subdivided into common interest development, also known as a condominium. The subject site is located at 528 Flores with Rosewood Avenue to the south, Sweetser Avenue to the east, Kings Road to the west, and Clinton Avenue to the north. The building itself was administratively approved on April 13th of 2018. So tonight is just for the review of the subdivision itself. And staff was able to make the findings that are in compliance with the zoning ordinance and consistent with the general plan. Therefore, staff does recommend that the Planning Commission approve the subdivision request, subject to the findings and conditions of approval for the attached resolution. Before I end, I'd like to mention that condition 5.2 should read, instead of frontage on Genesee Avenue, it should be frontage on Flores Street. That's my only change. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions for staff at this time? Great. David, do we have any public comments?
No public comment. Just
Great, I'm going to go ahead and, oh, sorry. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Well, we'll debate. I won't close it yet. Do we have any discussion on this item?
I'll move staff's recommendation.
Great, thank you. I will close the public hearing before we call the question.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. Moving on to item 10B, 1155 North Fuller Avenue. This is also an item from Derek.
Thank you. So this next project is located at 1155 Fuller Avenue. It's for subdivision 18-0013. The request is for a subdivision of a 4-story, 7-unit multifamily building over a subterranean garage. And this is also a subdivision for a common interest development or a condominium building. It's located at 1155 Fuller with Greenacre Avenue to the east, Vista Avenue to the west, Santa Monica Boulevard to the south, and Fountain Avenue to the north. Unlike the previous project, this one is a building that was previously approved by the Planning Commission back in 2014, on July 31st of 2014. It's currently under construction. However, tonight, the review is also just for the subdivision itself. Staff is able to make all the findings with compliance with the zoning code and consistent with the general plan. So staff is recommending approval to the Plan Commission and for the subdivision request, subject to the findings and conditions of the attached resolution. And like the other one, condition 5.2 should also not say Genesee Avenue. It should read Fuller Avenue. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions for staff?
Just one. Can you explain why this track map is not actually breaking down the units?
This has multi-levels, and there are different ways to have the track maps done. Some are shown where they are all split up, but since this is just a tentative track map, it's just showing the footprint of the building itself.
So when the assessor's going to be divvying these up, they don't have actual tracks?
Eventually they will, when it gets to the final map.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? David, do we have any public speakers on this item?
No public speaker.
Great. Do we need to, does the applicant want to give, is the applicant here? Yeah, that's my bad. Whoops.
Good evening, I'm the applicant's representative, Michael Bozier with Apex LA. Thank you, Derek, for your help, the application. Sorry. We have reviewed the conditions of approval, and the client is in agreement with all the conditions. If there are any questions, let me know.
I think you might be off the hook.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for the applicant? No. Okay, I just also want to, well, I'll wait until after this item is over. All right. I will close public comment portion of this hearing. Is there any discussion on this item?
I just wanted to acknowledge that there was a letter or an email that was printed out for us and placed on the dais from one of the neighbors who apparently had some objection to turning the apartment building into condos. I believe that this is a situation where the developers are allowed to do that, and there's not much that we can do about it once it's been done. It's a track map. But I did want to acknowledge that there was a question and an issue presented by a member of the public on that.
Great, thank you. I'm going to move to approve staff's recommendation. And we'll need to close the public hearing as of now before we call the question.
Moved by Chair Jones, seconded by Vice Chair Carvalero. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Great, thank you. I just also want to note that I did not give the applicant on 528 North Flora Street the opportunity to speak, so my sincere apologies. I hope you are okay with the outcome of our vote. Item 10C is 8553 West Knoll Drive, and we will be receiving a presentation from Antonio Castillo.
Good evening, Chair Jones and members of the Commission. My name is Antonio Castillo, Associate Planner. The item before you this evening is a request to demolish a single-family dwelling and construct a 3-story, 5-unit townhouse condominium development over one-level parking provided in individual parking garages. The project is proposed as a high-achieving green building project exceeding 90 points under the city's green building point system. Due to the topography of the site, 2 variances are being requested to deviate from development standards, including the requirements to provide front-facing private entry and the maximum average unit size allowed. The project is located at 8553 West No on a 7,448 square foot site within the semicircular street north of Santa Monica in the R4B zone. The immediate area maintains a small cluster of single-family dwellings, but is otherwise surrounded by a majority of multi-story, high-density residential developments, including a 66-unit condominium development to the east, closer to Santa Monica Boulevard, and at the other end is the Chamberlain Hotel to the west. The proposed units are designed with an average 1,920 square feet of floor area, plus a two-car side-by-side garage. Just want to note that the staff report indicated that the units had an average of 1,953, so it was slightly off, and that was an oversight, which has been corrected in the resolutions before you. Each unit will have a patio at the ground level, as well as balconies on the second and third floors, and its own rooftop patio terrace. The exceptional topography of the site slopes dramatically up from the property line, approximately 20 feet into the site. Past this point, the grade flattens somewhat, but continues to slope up to the rear an additional 9 feet towards the rear property line. The massing and scale of the building appears to be appropriate for this neighborhood, with numerous 3- and 4-story structures located within the area. The design is thoughtful and well organized, with each unit individually expressed. Adjustments were made to the design to increase the openness and accessible quality to the front facade. That includes a multi-story corner window adjacent to the entry walkway, further to the east of the building. The city's urban designer reviewed the project design and provided design feedback early in the application process multiple times. The design was then further refined with the input from the Planning Commission Design Review Subcommittee. It's the city's urban designer's assessment that the project is of exemplary design, given that the building is well articulated with a dynamic exterior composition and appropriate internal use of space that embraces the street. It's situated in a manner that appropriately integrates into the natural sloping site, is clear in its design language, and well articulated with appropriate use of materials. As a high-achieving project, the applicant is requesting that the project be allowed to divide all common open space, equivalent of 500 square feet minimum, and add that into the private open spaces located within the rooftop terraces. There are 2 variances being requested for this project. And according to the applicant, the property reflects an extraordinary convergence of site topography, zoning ordinance requirements, and building code accessibility requirements. Due to the particular interactions among these factors, the applicant argues that the strict conformance of the zoning code would deny the property owner privileges enjoyed by others of typical and similarly zoned properties in the same areas, making a conventional multi-story, multi-family building with an elevator access impractical. The first variance being requested is for the average unit size. The code requires that a maximum unit size be 1,200 square feet. Under normal conditions, the site would be allowed a maximum density of 8 units with an approximate, which would be an approximate 9,600 square foot building. I want to clarify that in the staff report, I inadvertently mentioned a 9-unit, but this is the maximum density would have been 8 units. 9-unit would have been if this was this project would have included inclusionary units. This is a market rate project. Because of the site's exceptional topography, extensive grading, ramping, and retaining walls would be required to construct a conventional elevator building. The applicant argues that the only viable alternative to a conventional multi-story building is an elevator, would be with an elevator in a townhouse-style development. And the townhouse model requires that the unit be located over private parking. When a two-car garage is provided at the base of each unit, the property is only physically deep enough to accommodate 5 units based on the depth of the site. If the 1,200 square foot average unit size applied to the project, the maximum size for 5 units would be a 6,000 square foot building. It's staff's assessment that there are exceptional circumstances applicable to this property, which does not generally apply to surrounding properties in the same zone. The variance increase in allowable aggregated maximum average unit size will allow the property owner to build a comparably sized building, thereby enjoying the privileges enjoyed by the other property owners in the vicinity and within the same zoning district who are unaffected by the exceptional topography. The second variance has to do with the street-facing entry door. The code requires that at least one private entry be provided on the street-facing facade. The intent of this provision is to maintain a residential feel of the street. Because of the exceptional site topography, the length of the stair required to reach the entry floor of the front unit makes it infeasible to provide a street-facing entry door for the front unit. A front-facing door would not allow a staircase to lead directly to the front door and instead would require or would need a wraparound within the front yard area, taking up a significant amount of front yard space. Consequently, the building was designed with a multi-story corner window adjacent to the access walkway to create a welcoming street facade that meets the spirit and intent of the requirements for the building, for a building that faces and embraces the street. The city's urban designer believes that the placement of the multi-story window near the entry walkway meets the intent of the requirement. Therefore, it's staff's assessment that the circumstances applicable to this property, which does not generally apply to the surrounding properties in the same zone, justifies a need for a variance to waive that requirement. Overall, this proposal is well-suited for the site and the surrounding neighborhood. The project will provide 5 townhouse condominiums, or a net increase of 4 housing units to the city's housing stock. The project provides high-achieving green building design, is deemed exemplary design, is complementary to the context of the neighborhood, and meets the intent of the development standards for residential buildings in the area. As proposed and as conditioned, the required findings for the project can be satisfied, and therefore staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the project request subject to the findings and conditions set forth in the draft resolutions. I want to mention that there was in the resolution, condition 610 was revised to eliminate 610G, subsection G, and that there was a conflict between that and the condition 10.6 having to do with parking for construction workers. So my recommendation was to strike out subsection G on condition 610. So that is already reflected in the resolution, but I want to state that for the record. And last, there were 2 correspondence that were submitted subsequent to publishing of the staff report. One was in support of the project from a longtime resident in the neighborhood, and the other was in opposition, having to do with the height of the building. And with that, this concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions, and so is the applicant and architect.
Great. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
Just at this time, before the applicant gives their presentation, do we have any questions for staff about the item? Just questions at this time? No? All right, well, we will move into the applicant's presentation. Please state your name and city of residence.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Commission. Edward Levin with Levin Morris Architects, resident of West Hollywood, and we're representing the owner of the property, NT3 LLC. Can we get the lights down? Thank you. Tony did, I think, a very good job of explaining the project. I'll try to go through it as briefly as I can. I'll want to spend enough time on the variances, so I will not spend as much time on the design issues. Sites in yellow, as you can see, 8553. Across the street in red is 8555 Santa Monica Boulevard. To the east, to the right, is a condominium building. You can see, because of the curve on the street, it's not parallel to us, so it comes close to our site at only one point along its west side. To the left, which is 8557, that's a similar project which came before this commission and council 3 years ago and was approved with essentially the same variances. Townhouses. We're proposing townhouse projects, and townhouses have some interesting challenges to them. The first one has to do with the whole versus the units. If you take just a square box, the units fit in fine, you have a very coherent whole, but you really don't see the units themselves. If you rotate those to articulate the units, now you start encroaching into the front and rear setbacks. So what we've done is really kind of a hybrid. We've kept them square, but we've angled or skewed the facades to articulate the individual units. So there's an overall shell. The shell is cut away to differentiate the individual units. And that looks like this. This is the other issue with townhouses is because they're set back from the street, rather than having a front and back, the fronts are to one side and the backs are to another side as you walk down. So the question of how you deal with fronts and backs is always a question with townhouses. This is the front. You can see there's more of the shell remaining. There's more of the sort of wrapper to maintain the coherent whole, with a series of glazing boxes and insets for the entries to help differentiate the units. This is east-facing, which is why we can have the glass there and why it's a bit more formal. This is the back side. The shell or the wrapper is cut away more. You can see here the effect of angling the facades and insetting them. You've got a series of terraces and shade structures on the west-facing facade to help deal with environmental issues. From the street, this is the view from the southeast. You can see the fronts here with a rhythm of the glass boxes stepping back and the stair on the property line. This is the view from the southwest. Again, you can see that the rear facades at the rear of the units are more eroded. You get the shade structures, you get the angled balconies. The massing is broken down a bit more on this side. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the plans. They're here mostly just in case you have any questions. West Knoll is on the left here. As Tony said, this is not really a common garage. These are private garages, individual doors, with a common access driveway. The common access driveway has a light that comes into it. You can see at the top there are some planting wells. Those you can see here. At the north side there, they're actually cut into the podium to allow light to come into that private access drive and to allow trees to grow up through it. The main living level is one level up in most of the units. Again, you can see how the angled facades at the rear really help to articulate the individual units. There are terraces at this level as well. We go up one more level. This is the main master bedroom level. Again, the bedroom is well inset from both sides for privacy, both for the building and for its neighbors. One more floor up. Each unit has its individual roof terrace. A small stair goes up. There's a small trellis, a small mechanical area, and a small private roof terraces. Here it is in section where West Knoll is now at the right-hand side. You can see the effect of the slope here. The 5 units are articulated. As Tony said, there's a steep part of the site in the front, but it still steps up for another 9 feet as it goes up. So each of these units is on a slightly different level. You can see the effect of the articulation of the units here. Now I want to spend a little more time on the variances. We have exceptional site topography. It is by definition exceptional. It meets a major exception to the building code. What the building code says is within the first 50 feet of your site, the access from the street, if you have a slope that's 15% or greater, then you qualify for an exception to accessibility codes. It's very rarely used, it very rarely applies, but it applies in spades on this site. Within our first 50 feet, we have a site that's 33%, twice the threshold that's allowed for this. So the site is, by definition, exceptional. Now, why that matters is this. Variances are necessary in situations like this. Zoning codes are generalizations. They describe what's applicable to typical properties. They work perfectly well on typical properties, but they can't account for every permutation for every exceptional site situation. So when you do have exceptional site situations, you often find that a strict application of the zoning code is in fact unfair. It does not allow the owner of that exceptional property to be treated the same as other property owners of the same zone in the same area that don't have that exceptional condition. So variances aren't gifts, they are remedies for situations where strict application of the zoning ordinance is not reasonable because of the exceptional circumstances of the site. And that's what we have here. Now, there are two ways we can develop this site. Because of that building code exception, there are really only 2 things we can do. Once we provide an elevator on this site, we now have to have elevator access to every unit. So it isn't feasible to do an 8-unit base density project here. You'd get 9 units for providing one very low income affordable. That gives you a bonus up to 12.15, which rounds up to 13 units. 13 units on this site with this buildable volume means a 6-story building. Once you have that, put that elevator in, you need to maximize the number of units to amortize the cost of that. You have elevator, you have fire stairs, you have a very large building, and it's 6 floors. So the only reasonable way to develop this site is with a series of townhouses. But as Tony explained, once you have the width of the garage, you have side-by-side garage, you've got a stair to get up, you could only fit 5 townhouses within the setbacks on this site. If you were to strictly apply the zoning ordinance and say those could only be 1,200 square feet, now you're denying this owner the ability to build the regular base density of 9,600 square feet. You'd be shorting them by 2,600 square feet, which is a huge building value. So again, because only 5 townhouses can fit, and because the only alternative is a ridiculously tall building on this site, we're asking to be granted to take that 9,600 square feet of base density, divide it by 5, that's 1,920 square feet. That's precisely the same variance that City Council approved for the project next door, 1,920 square foot units, for precisely the same reasons, for precisely the same exceptional site circumstances. One thing to point out is that although we're talking about the same base density of 9,600 square feet of building area, of unit area, a regular base density building has an elevator of necessity. And because it has an elevator, it has corridors, it has a pair of fire stairs, so it has 9,600 square feet of unit area, but it's a 12,000 square foot building once you add in the elevator, the corridor on each level, the fire stairs. And so it would be a 4-story building. So this building, even though we have the same unit area as a conventional building, we're much shorter. You can see here how the city measures its base density. The red line is the by right base density and height. You can see our red line Our roof stairs don't even get up that high. We are 10 to 15 feet lower than the allowable height for a base density 4-story building, let alone the 6-story building, which is the purple here. The other things we're asking for, as Tony explained on the front-facing entry, the stair to get up here is farther back than the facade of the building. So the only way to provide a front-facing entry would be to occupy the entire front of the building, all that landscape area with a switchback stair. That makes no sense. This is an open and inviting facade, has a corner glazed entry there, which we think presents a appropriate face to the street. We also think that we should be waived on the requirement for the 6-foot setback for exemplary design. We think this clearly meets that standard. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Levin. Do we have any questions from commissioners for Mr. Levin? No? All right.
No's acceptable.
Once again, you're
answer.
off the hook.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levin. Before we start public comment, I just want to take a moment to give Commission an opportunity to voice any disclosures. I should have done that after the staff report, so.
Thank you. I did have an opportunity to talk to Mr. Levin on the telephone about issues and facts that are contained within the staff report.
I met with the applicant's representative, discussed items contained in the staff report. I also visited the site.
I met with Mr. Levin and discussed the items contained in the staff report and the items brought forth in the presentation tonight.
I also met with the applicant's representative, Mr. Levin, and we discussed items contained in the staff report.
I talked to Ed Levin and discussed items in the staff report.
I too met with Ed Levin and discussed items in the staff report. I also visited the site, and then I also discussed items in the staff report with the individuals in the east side adjacent condominium building who were outside actually while I was there, and spoke to them about some concerns relayed in public documents that have been given to the commission.
I had a phone meeting with Mr. Levin to discuss items in the staff report, and I walked the site.
Great, thank you. And with that, we will open the public comment portion of the hearing. We have 2 public speakers, it looks like, right now. Irene Oppenheim, followed by Ted Green. Please, when you come up to the podium, state your name and city of residence. You will have 3 minutes to speak.
I hope I get the same 15 minutes as the builder. I have 2 items.
Can you please state
I live next door.
Can you please state your name and city of residence?
My name is Irene Oppenheim. I live at 8535 West Knoll Drive, which is exactly next door to this building. I would like to point out, our building is built on the same steep terrain. It's accessible. But first I want to point out that this building is going to destroy a heritage tree. And if we destroy a tree on our property on 85, we have to replace it with a similar tree. The developer who's going to make money off this does not have to replace the tree. And I would like to challenge the report that says there are no endangered species. There are all kinds of species that live in these trees. We have a bird feeder. We have 7 different species of birds. We have squirrels. We have hawks. We have possums. And all these species are endangered in West Hollywood. This particular development has no green. All of its planting is in containers. And if you think that's good for the city, I don't know. I brought copies of this for everyone so that you can read the rules in Pasadena, which say that if a healthy tree is removed, that every tree for removal, multiple replacement trees must be planted anywhere on the owner's property or in city property. And there are 2 inspections of the tree, if it's a healthy tree, to see if it truly needs to be removed. This tree is being removed to supply 1 more large condo, and it's truly affecting the quality of the neighborhood. I have one of these for each of you, and I guess I give them to you to pass around. I didn't know how many of you were, so some of you don't get the Pasadena part. Now, the other part of my talk is this project does not meet the American with Disabilities Act. As I told you, we are on exactly the same terrain. We are on exactly the same the same hill, and we are accessible. There is no reason that this building cannot be accessible. And it says in the act that there's only rare exceptions. And when there are these exceptions, that there must be access where there can be. And in this case, the people driving up would have access from their garages, as we do. We have access from the garage, and we have access from the guest parking. I also urge you, I have a copy of this for each of you too, outlined. It says any building that is over 3 stories, or that is 3 stories or over, I should say, must have an elevator. And I think I would add that one of the reasons these buildings must have an elevator is West Hollywood is trying to encourage living in space. And I am almost 80. I would not be able to live in this building. I want to live in place. This is not.
Your time
what
has
West
expired.
is encouraging. I have copies of the ADA. I urge you not to vote on this until you read the ADA, or you may get sued.
Thank you. Ted Green?
Thank you very much. My name is Ted Green. I'm a resident of West Hollywood. In fact, I live in and have owned since 2005 a condominium at 8550 Holloway Drive, which is directly north of the piece of property you're looking at now. The south edge of our building faces the north edge of this proposed project. And I would like to compliment Ed Levin. I believe he has come up with a proposal that very delicately balances what can be done on that site while providing 4 new housing units, while keeping within the scale of the neighborhood. My building is a 4-story, 28-unit condo building that would be looking directly towards this project. And, you know, at some point, my building, I guess in the 60s, was single-family homes. And at some point, those single-family homes were torn down and was turned into a 4-story building. Before that, it was probably bean fields. I mean, that's the history of West Hollywood. I believe it's aesthetically beautiful, and it's my understanding that there is an alternative of building a much denser, taller building on that site, and in order to accommodate an elevator, that would be the option that would be on the table, a taller, denser building. And given the choices, I think what the applicant has come up with is more appropriate and would be great for the neighborhood, and I hope that you'll support it this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. David, do we have any additional public speakers?
No other public speakers.
Great. Would the applicant like to rebut?
Chair, before we go with this, I want to make sure we have copies for everything we're looking at that the public can look at as well. I think there are extra copies here. I don't know if anyone in the public wants to see them, but I think that's important if we're considering it.
Thank you, Commissioner Bass.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to address some of the points that were raised by Ms. Oppenheim. First of all, this is not the same terrain. When we came before you for 8557 3 years ago, we identified 3 sites that have this particular slope, 8557 and the 2 on either side of it, one to the east and one to the west. This is the one to the east. The slope, there is a steep slope at this point, and it becomes far more shallow. That the condominium at 8535 does not have the same site conditions. They do not have the same site slope. within 50 feet of the front access that we have on this site. There are 3 sites in the city that are, the 2 that you see there and the 1 to the west of that. Regarding heritage tree, that's a term of art. There is no heritage tree on this site. We have a heritage tree ordinance in this town. This is not one of them. There is no heritage tree on this site. Similarly, there are no federal endangered species on here. This project has received CEQA clearance for environmental impacts. There are none. As far as plantings only in the containers, no. Unlike many projects that you see, which have the garage going from edge to edge and from rear setback to front setback, there is no garage under our front setback. All the plantings in the front yard are planted into native soils. Similarly, the ADA requirements. As Ms. Oppenheim said, yes, we're required to provide that, except in rare circumstances. This is one of those rare circumstances. California Building Code Section 1150A.1 is a test for site inaccessibility. And as I said correctly, and staff has looked into this, we've had the building department look into this. With the previous project, took us a couple of years to get to this point. What it says is what CBC 1150A.1 says is very clear. If you have a site, if you have a slope exceeding 15% anywhere within the first 50 feet of the access, you are waived from the requirements of Chapter 11A. Chapter 11A is housing accessibility. We have 2 accessibility chapters in the state building code, 11A and 11B. 11B is for public buildings and for building housing that has any public funding in it. 11A is the one that applies to us. It's a privately funded project. And as I said, we are specifically waived from accessibility requirements under 1150A.1. It is very rare. I have been a licensed architect in the state of California for 35 years, and the project we did at 8557 a couple of years ago was the first time I'd ever run across that. That's how rare the exception is, but it is in the code, and it does waive the accessibility requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to close the public comment portion of the hearing, and we can move into deliberation. Who would like to speak first? Commissioner Altschul.
I think this is, as Mr. Levin described, and as the urban designer agreed, a perfect example of exemplary architecture. And also, I believe it's the teaching example of what a variance can be and should be. Given that and all of the other comments and the substance of Mr. Levin's presentation and the design of this particular project, I'm very happy to support it.
Thank you. Commissioner Bass?
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts. I served on the Public Facilities Commission before coming here, which has jurisdiction over heritage trees in the city of West Hollywood. And in 4 years on that commission, I voted against removing every single tree that came before that commission that we had to vote on. So I am particularly concerned when trees are removed. From what I'm seeing in the pictures here, I'm not a tree expert, but I believe this is a ficus, which doesn't qualify as a heritage tree in West Hollywood. And, you know, I wish we could protect trees on private property, but we simply can't under our code as it is now. So I heard the phrase heritage tree and my ears perked up because that's of something of serious concern to me, but I don't see that here, and I didn't see that when I visited the site. You know, I want aging in place is important, and we do need to have as much of our housing stock available for aging in place, and I believe that ADA requirements help facilitate that to some degree. But I think that the comparison between this property and the one immediately to its east is different. As I look at the map, the site next door not only is much larger, which would allow for the building to be spread out, but but also has an exceptionally wide frontage along that road, and that's what I recall from my visit there as well. So I don't know the comparison is apples to apples, and so I hear you, but I'm just not seeing those arguments pan out, and I say that mostly so you know I was listening and I was taking notes, and I care about those concerns. As you all know, I'm a stickler for variances, and I believe that there should be, as our code says, exemplary and extraordinary circumstances to grant variances. 3 properties in our city would, for me, qualify as extraordinary circumstances. So I believe that this is exactly what a variance is supposed to be granted for. I personally want a lot more housing stock, and so my gut reaction when I first started reading the staff report was, why are we only doing 5 units when we could put 8 or 10 units or more on this site? But I believe that the sensitivity of the neighborhood, making it conform so that it actually fit in the neighborhood, as opposed to being this big sore thumb, makes the variance in the size of the units something we should strive for. And also, in a recent meeting, we talked about the exemplary design and what that means. And I know that we kind of go back and forth on this commission about that. And I use the phrase better than okay would qualify as exemplary for me. And this certainly does that. I think that it goes far beyond that. And so I'm fine with exemplary design as well. So I think I've gone through everything that's within our discretion this evening. And I think it checks all the box, and I will be supporting this project.
Commissioner Buckner?
Well, I can't do more than or say more than what Commissioner Bass says. So I'll just say, I think you did a beautiful job addressing the issues that are before us. And I also feel like I want to support this project under these circumstances. I think it's a very good design for this particular site. And there you go.
Commissioner Hoopengarner?
So I do live within 2 blocks of this location, so I'm very familiar. This is part of my morning walk. And yes, it kind of breaks my heart that cute little Tudor is going to go away. But it is zoned to be 45 feet, and the owner has the right to build to that height. I commend Mr. Levin for coming up with a design that actually fits into the community. And yes, he could go to 6 stories, and none of us want that. I think he's done an excellent job of articulating the building in a way that gives it some definition, some interest, and allows for the best integration in a very challenging space. Those of you who walked that property, it's a straight up hill. I mean, and I live on Westbourne, and that's one of the steepest up hills to walk. So given the challenges of the site, and without going into chapter and verse on each of the items, I mean, one of my first thoughts when I saw that stairs is, how is this ADA accessible? But in review of the code, it is what it is, and there is an allowance for that exception, and I can't find that we could say no to this for that reason. Would I like it to be more accessible? Absolutely, but given the constraints of the site, I don't see how that's possible. And Ms. Oppenheim, I did review the survey of the existing trees. I reviewed all of the trees identified. None of them are heritage trees. Does it break my heart to lose these trees? Absolutely, especially considering one of them is an avocado tree, and I need that tree to pollinate my avocado tree. So personally, this is heartbreaking to me, but there's nothing that is protected in this space. I also believe that this picture is of the property 2 buildings over. It's not actually a tree on this property. And I think, Adam, you are correct. I don't think it's a ficus, but either way, it's not a protected tree.
I am more than welcome to be corrected on that, because you're the expert, not me.
But would I like to see, more greenery in this space? Absolutely. Is it possible? No. That's in part because of our code. And Mr. Levin and I will actually be serving on the next Green Building Committee meeting in a week, I believe, to revisit precisely these kinds of issues. And so I would encourage the public to stay engaged on all of our green building code and how that's going to happen. You're going to hear it in front of this body when it finally gets finished. But this concept of trees and courtyards and all that's going to come back. So that being said, I feel that this building is precisely the kind of construction we'd like to see in the city, and I will be voting for it.
Thank you. Commissioner Erickson.
Thank you, Chair. I too want to commend Mr. Levin on the extraordinary architecture of the building. Seeing it in photos and then after meeting with you and reviewing the materials myself, I have to agree with my fellow commissioners on the exact type of building I would like to see that meets the extraordinary design. I was glad when I was speaking with staff and I said, so this is extraordinary design. Period, not question mark. So that was nice, and I would still like to make sure we get further guidance on what that extraordinary design, exemplary design, extraordinary isn't the same thing, but what? Different thing. Okay, well, excellent. I'm going to throw in an excellent design, but I think we still need to make sure we're honing up what that actually is in regards to it, because we don't want to be using it for one thing and setting an objective standard and then not using it for the same. For all their projects that would be trying to apply for that. So I commend the applicant for that. I do plan on supporting this project, so I want to say that first before I say what I'm about to say. I do have some minor concerns regarding the rooftop decks. I am concerned about noise in the neighborhood. I live on Fountain Avenue, and my bedroom window is right next to people's patios that are outdoors, and I hear everything, especially during Pride Month. So what I'm trying to say is that those rooftop decks, I feel, could create mini event spaces that would create a lot of noise for the residents in the surrounding building, specifically to the east, and I am concerned about that, but I don't know what type of recourse we have. So I'm not prepared to deny the project. I think that those are architecturally a big piece of why I like the actual project, but I am concerned about future complaints the city will receive about noise, specifically with our code compliance division. When people are actually getting those complaints, what's the objective standard for the noise? I know the city has a noise ordinance, but we all know how that goes sometimes here, especially with businesses that we've had that have had rooftop decks and the noise spilling over into the neighborhoods. This is adding 5 rooftop decks that could do just the same. So that is one of my concerns. Additionally, my concerns are for the street itself. I think the street is going to be seeing a lot of changes in the coming years. I'm concerned about the construction timeline in that general vicinity, specifically with stuff happening on Santa Monica Boulevard, an item that was on our agenda a few meetings back that's being continued that could go into construction at the same time that this building goes into construction. That was one of my questions to you all about the construction timeline, because I am concerned that if there's just multiple construction sites going around the buildings to the east, to the west, south, and north, that it is going to cause a lot of chaos for the community, and I am concerned for the community residents. And additionally, then parking on the street. I think it will be adding a stress to the parking to find it. We are having 2 cars for the owners. However, guests have to find street parking. So I'm concerned about the limited availability of that parking for people that would have guests over. These are rooftop decks. These are homes that you would buy that you would be able to entertain in. We all love to entertain in our homes. However, the ability to do so requires people, and people need a place to park. And unless they're taking Ubers or Lyfts, which is a whole nother issue with where Ubers and Lyfts let people off and park their cars, they're bringing their own cars. So I am concerned about the parking requirements and the ways in which that will also adversely impact the neighborhood. However, in examining the code and in examining all the ways in which we actually have authority over this, the increase to the housing stock, specifically with the addition of 4 units through objective standards, we can't, from our presentation last meeting, deny this in any way. I think in the letter of the law, I am prepared to support it, but I did want to put my concerns on the record. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Caballero.
Yep. Ed Levin and I at DRS went through multiple design ideas and things that we thought would be worth readdressing, and I think Ed has done a great job at addressing those items, and I think this is a masterful presentation and a great project for our city and community. I don't have any issues with this.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to make a couple of quick comments. First, I do want to thank the residents for coming out. I always say this, but I just want to reiterate that we are hugely appreciative of your time. We always want to hear what you have to say about the projects that are coming up near you. It's obvious that you took a lot of time to bring materials to us tonight, and I'm hugely appreciative of that. What I also need to say is that as insofar as our vote as a discretionary body, there are very specific legal guidelines that we have to abide by when we are considering projects. And in this case, and I will say that I think I had just joined Planning Commission when Mr. Levin's other project next door came before us. That, now that has those variances that he had requested for the other property have been granted, legally, the grounds on which we can consider this are very well defined. And it's for that reason that I am inclined to support the project. I'm also going to say, to echo some of the other commissioners' comments, that this is what a variance is supposed to do. And I am always appreciative of instances in which we have a developer and an architect who are willing to create a project that is better for the site rather than building it out to its full envelope or capacity. I think something that I hope we can all agree on is that we're happy that there's not a 6-story building going up in this spot. I also just want to thank Mr. Levin. The thoroughness of these plans is pretty remarkable. We often have projects before us that are much larger, that do not have plans that are anywhere near this thorough. It gives us the best information that we can have to make a decision as we consider things during the public hearing. And I will say that the memo was also very helpful in terms of delineating all of the potential issues and precedent that has been set already by the city for them. So thank you. It would be lovely if the other projects in the city kind of met the same bar. I don't have any other comments at this time. I am inclined to support it. Unless we have any other comments from commissioners, it looks like we have a motion on the floor. Commissioner Hoopengarner, do you want to state your motion?
Yes, I'd like to move that we approve staff report with a couple of corrections. In particular, Tony, as you've already identified, we've got to drop the 1953 or 52 to 1920 on the unit size. So I see that in a number of places, but in particular on page 4 of the resolution, there are a number of instances, but also there, I think it's important that we clarify that the maximum density is 8 units. And in the final paragraph, that the smallest unit is 1920 and the largest unit is 1932, not 1962. Just keeping the numbers in the resolution in alignment with the plans that we've reviewed. The only other correction I would encourage is in section 5 on page 2 is that the nature of the slope being modified be specified. So requirement to provide a front-facing providence and aggregate maximum average size, unit size, as well as a waiver of the additional 6-foot setback above the first floor and a modification for the driveway slope. All of the others specify the modification. That driveway slope is not being specified, so I think it's important that we say what we're approving. And I think those, along with your already, I think there's, in 2.4 on page 8, there's a couple more. The actual square feet of the project is not 19,762 according to the plans. It's not, or 9,617. Again, just getting all of these numbers in alignment with what's on the plans. But with that, I would move that we approve staff report.
Do we have any questions from city attorney or acting city attorney or from staff at this time about any of those changes?
These revisions have already been made in the
Revised resolution.
The revised resolution.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Bass, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to make sure the revised resolution does include your recommendation that we drop 610G entirely? Thank you.
Correct, yes.
Great, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and we can call the question.
Moved by Commissioner Hoopman Garner, seconded by Commissioner Buckner.
I was going to say I accepted those changes.
Commissioner Elshaw, please.
We have a frozen screen, it looks like. There you go.
There we go. And the motion passes unanimously as amended. The resolutions the Planning Commission just approved memorializes the Commission's final action on this matter. This action is subject to appeal to the City Council. Appeals must be submitted within 10 calendar days from this date to the City Clerk's office. Appeals must be in writing and accompanied by the required fees. The City Clerk's office can provide appeal forms and information about waiver of fees.
Great, thank you. Items 10D and E, as per my comment earlier, have been continued. Item 10D to a date uncertain, that is 8439 Sunset Boulevard. Item 10E is being continued as per staff to Thursday, January 17th, 2019. Moving on to item 11A, new business. This is approval of Planning Commission and Design Review Subcommittee meeting dates for our calendar year 2019-2020. Do we have any comments about or changes to the proposed meeting dates for next year?
I won't be here June 6th, but otherwise I think this is great. And I'm ready to move staff's recommendation unless somebody beats me to the punch.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hoopman Garner, seconded by Commissioner Erickson.
Great, we'll go ahead and call the question.
And the 2019 calendar is approved.
Great, thank you. Item 12, unfinished business, there is none. Item 13, excluded consent calendar, there is none. Item 14, items from staff. 14A is the planning manager's update.
Yeah, just that our next two meetings are canceled, so the next time we'll be back here is January 17th, 2019.
Great, thank you. Item 15, public comment. David, do we have any public speakers?
No public comment.
Great, thank you. Item 16, items from commissioners.
Just one housekeeping item. I mentioned to David on the 17th, we have an item, another project on West Knoll. That one I am within 500 feet of, so I will be recusing myself. And I would ask that that item be moved to the end of the calendar if possible, so that I don't have to sit and wait and then come back. That's just a personal request. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I also just want to take a quick moment to introduce our acting city attorney tonight. This is Mr. Patrick Donegan, Esquire. Thank you for joining us. Lauren Langer wasn't able to join, so I'm sorry we didn't put on more of a show for you, but thank you for joining us this evening.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just wanted to say Happy New Year to everyone. We're not going to be back till January 17th, which seems like a real long time away, but it moves pretty quick. So
yes.
I hope everybody has a really good holiday season. To all of our citizens out there, Happy New Year.
And I should also add, I'm speaking out of turn, apologies, but I would like to wish a happy Hanukkah. There are a couple of members of our commission who do celebrate Hanukkah, so I would like to thank them for letting us convene on this evening. So thank you.
I have one item.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Bass.
we've had multiple items come up in the past few months that are these track maps moving apartments to condos. I would really love if we had some sort of incentive for developers to actually build apartments and that locked them into keeping them apartments, whether that was an incentive on parking, on height, on density, on something. I don't offer what the solution might be, but I believe that we need to protect the rental market in this city as well. And so I may be alone on that, but I feel very strongly that we should have some sort of incentive for building apartments and keeping them that way.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Erickson?
I too would like to echo what Commissioner Bass said. I think in terms of looking at these items and then going back and reviewing all the items the Planning Commission has done in the past before coming here, protecting the rental housing stock is very important. As a renter myself, these things need to be preserved, even improved upon, added to, specifically when it comes to, although we love townhouses, condos, and all of those things for people to live in permanently, people also need a home to rent because then they stay here in the city because we are a city of renters.
Thank you. Commissioner Altschul?
Just a brief update on Jean Dobrin, who is still in rehab after having had a hospital stay, but she's making nice progress.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nope. All right. Well, with that, we will adjourn. This is our last meeting of the year, so we hope to see those of you who are game to coming on our next meeting and the first meeting of the new year, Thursday, January 17th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. right here. Thank you.